friend Jerry here, taking a look at the box office results for this past weekend, November 28th through November 30th. Disney Studios has to be through the freaking roof over this weekend, too, because they had another record setting weekend, especially globally, and pretty much securing the studio's position as the number one top grossing studio of 2025, especially with Avatar Fire and Ash just around the corner as well, which will probably be another billion-dollar movie for the studio. But before I get into the results, I would like to ask you that if you'd like to show your love and support for our channel here with a one-time donation, I will leave our Venmo and Cash App information in the description as well as in the pinned comment and here on the screen for you. We really do appreciate all your support in helping us grow our fledgling operation here. We believe in it so much. We believe in the work that we're doing here. We love sharing our passion and our love for movies of all genres. And we're so honored to do it. And we really do appreciate your support. Okay, let's go ahead and begin at number one. And really, no big surprise, is the sequel to 2016's Disney animated movie Zootopia, which is Zootopia 2, which over this past weekend broke all kinds of box office records, especially around the globe. Over the 3 days, Zootopia 2 brought in $96.8 million, so a bit shy of the $100 million that I was predicting for the movie, but I guess it also is a bit shy of where the studio had expected this movie to make, at least for Friday through Sunday. Now, when you figure in Wednesday and Thursday, the 5-day gross is $156 million. So the 5-day gross actually makes it look like a higher grossing movie. Apparently on Wednesday and Thursday, the theaters were filled for Zootopia 2. And then Friday through Sunday, after the holiday, it lightened off a little bit, but still easily becoming the number one movie. Now, Zootopia 2 here in North America opened on 4,000 screens, and for a per-screen average on 3-day, that figures out to be a little bit over 24,000 per screen. But as a 5-day PSA, it's 39,000. Now, speaking of records, this is the second best Thanksgiving domestic weekend opening for Disney, right behind Moana 2 from last year. And globally, the movie has made over $500 million, $556.4 million to be precise. And by the way, China breaking a lot of records as well, because Zootopia 2 opened up there over the weekend and brought in $275 million. So almost $300 million of this global gross was made in China alone. So Zootopia 2 is a huge global blockbuster. The critics also really liked the movie, came in with a 91% Rotten Tomato score. I know the last movie did around, I believe it was 98%, so this is a bit lower. But whenever you're in the 90s for a Rotten Tomato score, especially with so many critical reviews to be looked at, yeah, this is a really good movie. And the audiences like it just as much, if not more, than the original, giving it an A cinema score. So I expect this one to have long legs at least until the end of the year. I know it's going to play well through December and continue to just rack up really healthy weekend grosses. Now, one interesting note about the demographics as far as who was going to see or who went to see Zootopia 2 is that 60% of the audience were female. And I think that's a really important figure when we look at our number 2 movie, Wicked for Good, which over the 3-day weekend, Friday through Sunday, brought in about another $63 million. And for a 5-day, another $93 million, bringing its domestic gross to $270 million. It is a huge hit here, but it did drop 57.3% in business from last weekend. Now, this is actually a steeper number than I think anybody was projecting. I know last week here I had predicted Wicked for Good to go maybe 30, 40%, as a drop. Now, what I didn't know when I said that, because I did go back and look, is that the original Wicked in its second weekend, part one, last year, second weekend, which would have been Thanksgiving weekend as well, it only dropped 28%. So my 30% prediction would have been in line with what the part one did. I gotta stop saying original. Part one. And but Wicked for Good dropping almost 60%. So far, Wicked for Good is still outgrossing part one, but I would expect at the end, when all is said and done, that we're going to see that Wicked for Good is actually going to do less at the box office than part one. Now, globally, Wicked for Good has brought in 393 million, so it definitely is blockbuster level. I think it's going to end up doing over $500 million easily globally. In third place, we have a former number one, Now You See Me, Now You Don't. 3-day gross adding another 7 million, 10.1 million over the 5-day weekend, only dropping 21.8% from last weekend. And this is common for a holiday weekend, especially the Thanksgiving holiday weekend, to have those lower decreases in business. And that's really what also made Wicked for Good's almost 60% decrease drop in business sort of noteworthy, because 20%, 30% is really more the norm, especially within our top five on Thanksgiving weekend, as we see here with Now You See Me, Now You Don't, only dropping shy of 22%. Now You See Me, Now You Don't's domestic gross is sitting at almost $50 million. So a rather moderate success, I would say, for this movie. Coming in fourth, also a former number one, is Predator Badlands. Its 3-day gross, 4.8 million, 6.6 million over the 5-day period, only dropping 26.7% from last weekend. Its total domestic gross right now, though, for Predator Badlands is $85 million. So a really nice success here for the studio. And globally, over $173 million, probably sitting at $175 million by now globally. It has now become, Predator Badlands has now become the highest grossing movie in the Predator franchise. So I think pretty much guaranteeing that this is not the last Predator movie that we will be seeing. Rounding out our top five is the remake of the 1980s Arnold Schwarzenegger action movie, The Running Man, which brought in over a 3-day period, 3.7 million, 5.5 million over the 5-day period. And that domestic gross now for The Running Man is sitting at just over $34 million. I would say this is a disappointment for the studio. This movie is running out of steam. I would expect it to easily drop out of the top five next week. Now, as far as total ticket sales, the total ticket sales for the weekend was just shy of $186 million, which means that our box office gross was actually 0.3% up from last weekend. Now, as far as looking back to last year, 2024, the same weekend, Thanksgiving weekend, we were actually down in business 32.9%. But that is also because that was the weekend Moana 2 was released. Red 1 was still out there. Gladiator 2 was still out there. And of course, it was the second weekend of Wicked Part 1, which only dropped 28% in business. So it still did huge numbers. So we were actually down when compared to the same weekend last year. 2025, not proving to be as stellar a year at the box office as expected. I do believe that 2026 is looking quite a bit brighter. I have a couple of videos coming out here on this channel, in fact, where I'll be taking a look at all of the movies going wide release in 2026, taking a look at their box office prospects. Are they going to be successes? Are they going to be failures? Or at least in my opinion, are they going to be successes or are they going to be failures? So be looking for those videos. Those will be up here within the next week or two. But taking a look at the entire slate of 2026 films that are set to be wide released. Now, of course, there will always be surprises, but the good news is, as I've looked at that list, I see a lot of just money potential throughout the entire year that I think 2026 could actually be that rebound year. Now, taking a look at next week, we have Five Nights at Freddy's 2, the sequel to the 2023 supernatural horror film that is based on a video game series. Now, back in 23, the original opened in October, not December. And I think that's actually important here, but it did open in October, and its opening weekend brought in $80 million for its opening gross. However, domestically, and I found this interesting when I did my research, it only brought in $137.2 million domestically. And that's its lifetime gross. Now, it opened at 80 million. It didn't even have a 2 times multiplier as far as its total gross here. So it was a very much a front-loaded movie, made the majority of its money in its opening weekend. Now that brings us to Five Nights at Freddy's 2, which is opening here on Friday, first Friday of December, where it's a non-Christmas movie. You know, originally when I looked at this, I thought that Five Nights at Freddy's 2 very well could be $100 million opener. You know, if that excitement level is still there. I know that the audiences that saw the original or the first part really, really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it. So, you know, will they come out in droves again here for the sequel in December? But when part one opened back in 23, remember in October, it also had very little competition when it opened. Freddy's 2 is opening on Friday. We have Wicked for Good and Zootopia 2 out there, which are also going to be doing a lot of business still this next weekend. You know, I can kind of see this being on the low end, maybe a 60, $70 million opener, which the studio Blumhouse may or may not deem as successful because the production budget on Freddy's 2 is 50 million, reported to be $50 million, and the budget on Freddy's 1, the first movie, was only 20 million. So they've actually more than doubled the production budget, which means they've got to make even more money to turn a profit. Now, that money means they have to be north of $150 million when they're looking at a global scale. Could they get there? They're more than likely going to get there because the first movie also had a huge international audience. So I would expect the same to be true of Freddy's 2. But remember that, you know, Zootopia 2 this past weekend in China brought in $275 million. So in China, at least, Freddy's 2 is going to have quite a bit of competition. And the only other movie coming out this next week is actually an older movie. It's the Kill Bill Whole Bloody Affair from Quentin Tarantino. Now, I don't really expect this movie to make a lot of box office buzz this next weekend, but it is a wide release, or at least it's being reported as being a wide release. This is the Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2 basically put together as one movie. Plus, there is additional footage. It is a 4.5 hour long movie. So I'm not exactly sure how many people, especially if they're going to an AMC theater that has a half-hour trailers, if they're going to want to sit in a theater for 5 hours watching a movie. All right, that's going to be it for the box office results for this week. Well, once again, if you do enjoy my content here, I would appreciate it if you go ahead and subscribe to our channel, as well as like and share this video. And of course, love to hear what you think about any of these movies. If you saw any of them, which ones would you recommend? Which ones would you recommend avoiding? Were you disappointed with any? Were you surprised with any? Let me know that all in the comments. And once again, if you'd like to support us as well as earning yourself a ton of rewards, we'd love to have you over on Patreon with us, where regardless of the tier that you choose, right now you will receive a 7-day free trial membership so you can try most of the rewards anyways, absolutely risk-free. All right, my friend, that is it for now, and I really look forward to seeing you here again real soon. But until then, that's a wrap.